Hello, America. Welcome to the Junto Podcast, where we promote the practical applications of critical thinking and bold creativity. I am your host, Edgar Mills. Thanks for joining us. Okay, folks, welcome back. This is episode 35. So I felt compelled to do a follow-up to my last episode. People who know me well know that I poo-poo on therapy a lot. I have very personal and very deep, very real issues with the whole system. But I'm a thoughtful guy, and I know that many people benefit from all the things that I poo-pooed on yesterday. So we're going to talk about some of those things. So I harped on the fact that me, but many like me, we reject mainstream traditional therapy. It doesn't click with us. We don't feel comfortable with it. We have trust issues. We don't have time. We can't afford it. We're just not willing to open up to strangers, etc. And all those things are true, and they're all valid. And all the things I talked about, I will stand by them all day, every day. But now I'm going to flip the script a little bit and make a case for why some people do benefit from therapy, specifically cognitive behavioral therapy, and how it is a beneficial tool for even maybe some of the guys like I was referring to. And I'll point out the veteran community with all the high suicide rate and things. There obviously something isn't going well in the mental health capacity. So first we're going to, I'll just get into it. So my argument that therapy was at best a temporary Band-Aid, that holds true for me, but it don't hold true for everyone. Cognitive behavioral therapy can align well with type A personalities or people who are action-oriented type folks. It's practical and goal-focused, depending on the techniques and it comes down. It's very individual to me, so I'm going to battle myself throughout this podcast trying to be objective here. But you can use little tools to shift your thinking patterns. And I use the word manipulate, but yeah, kind of manipulate your thinking patterns a little bit without this endless. Here's a new term I was introduced to by my friend who's a therapist: navel gazing. So what is navel gazing? That's this sort of useless, excessive self-contemplation where you're just in your own mind and you're self-absorbed and you're just focused on all the negative things and why things are bad and wrong, and you never make any problem or any steps to solve that problem. You just, so the visual is you're just staring down at your navel, looking, waiting for something to happen. I don't know. This endless cycle of introspection that I talked about. And that's what I warned of, navel gazing. And my friend defined it very well for me. And that's what he said. He said, yeah, what you're talking about, navel gazing is a word used for that, a term used for that. But if you can not get trapped in that cycle and attack these cognitive distortions head on, then you can build resilience and be in control of your own thoughts. So it's not so much that the therapy is useless, it's that how you go about it, I think. So what I do want to point out is a handful of examples where therapy has worked. Now, there's millions of them. I'm just pointing out 3 sort of examples of type A types. And these are from real cases, but I've stripped them down to very generic, but they're from real cases. And one is imagine, and this guy, he's like a high achieving executive, right, in the corporate world, and struggled with struggled with stress for sure, but he was a perfectionist. And some of you out there, yeah, you, people also say OCD, but you're a perfectionist. Everything's got to be perfect all the time. And this guy was ambitious, and competitive and always pushing for more, 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 and more. And he started experiencing burnout. He was putting so much pressure on himself to be perfect and have perfect outcomes that he was reaching burnout, man. And so he went to therapy. And the type of therapy, so the technique was cognitive restructuring, and in doing this, he learned how to recognize when he was having these, these perfectionist sort of overbearing thoughts. He learned how to recognize when that was happening in the moment. And it was always like, hey, if I don't close the deal, then I lack value. Then I'm worthless if I can't close every deal, if I can't get it done. So he learned how to recognize when that was happening in his brain, and through this cognitive behavioral therapy. And he learned how to sort of do a little bit of analysis, like objective analysis, and looking at past performance and past success, and then think, okay, there have been setbacks before, and I have survived those setbacks, and I'm still here, right? And so he began to take a more balanced view, and just reaffirm, like, yes, I have skill. I'm at the top of my game. One small slip doesn't define my whole career. And that's very real in the military too, by the way. In the military, you're only as good as your last mess up. You could be a superhero, but you're defined by your last mess up. And that's not healthy, and it's not correct, but that's the way a bunch of CSMs like to look at it. A lot of former operators live in this perfectionist headspace where they're defined by their former status and their former exploits as operators, as combat soldiers. And then they have trouble feeling value out here in the civilian world because, the civilian world doesn't recognize combat skill as valid. That's not a thing. You might have some people who look at you and kind of like, oh, yeah, thanks for your service. And they appreciate that you're a tough guy and you've done some tough guy stuff, but they don't see combat as a net positive. Anyway, I digress. And then, and he did some behavioral experiments to confirm this therapy, and that was, he would deliberately do different things, right? So he would delegate tasks, and he would take short breaks that he normally wouldn't have, right? And then he would observe the outcomes, and then realize that, hey, the world's not going to end if I don't get this thing done perfectly or get it done my way, what I consider perfect, or if I let somebody else do it. You can delegate tasks down to your subordinates. That's the way it works. That's just the way. If you try to take it all on yourself, you're gonna get burnout. Yeah, you're gonna. So by using that type of therapy and implementing that type of experiment, right, that technique, he had positive outcomes, and then he learned how to relax a little bit, chill the F out. It brought his anxiety down, and as a reflection of that, it boosted productivity. And then, then he had a good work-life balance, and everything was manageable. So there's a perfect example, type A go-getter, where this did work. And then the next example is a competitive athlete who was having, performance anxiety. he was a pro athlete, and he was type A, obviously, and he would get these pregame jitters, and then start having all this harsh, negative self-talk, this negative self-criticism. And so he went to the therapist, and they started doing, thought challenging and reframing. That's the way they worded that: thought challenging and reframing. And this guy learned to identify this negative self-talk in the moment, where, much like the CEO, if I make one mistake, one bad play, I'm done, I'm out. Which, in a highly competitive environment, sometimes that might be true. But then he looked at his past, right? Evidence. How's this gone in the past? And he realized that, look, I've always been at the high end of my game, and I've had mistakes in the past that I've bounced back from. But as you chase excellence, you tend to forget those. Well, you'll always remember the mistakes you made, but it's usually worse in your mind than it is other people's mind. So, but he realized, okay, yes, I've come back from worse, and he was able to focus on the next thing and not dwell in the old thing. And so some of the techniques that he used was relaxation techniques and like muscle relaxation and visualization, right? So in the competitive shooting world, shooters do this all the time when you get up in preparation for a stage, right? Now me, I kind of like shake out my shoulders a little bit, take a couple of breaths, a little relaxation there, breathe deep, and I look and I visualize the stage and the order of attack. And it's a little ritual, kind of like when in Major League Baseball, you get a batter up there and he wiggles his ass and stomps his feet and kicks dirt a little bit. He taps his bat on home plate like 3 times. Yeah, a little ritual. That's like a little relaxation technique. Then you take that final exhale, relax. All right, bring it, right? So that's what this guy learned how to do. And as a result, he performed, well, a little bit better even, and minimized his mistakes. And even when he did make the mistakes, was able to manage those better. And he was more calm. And the more calm you are, the better you can thrive under pressure, folks. You can thrive under pressure the more calm you are. Now, I like to believe that I'm very calm under stress. Yeah, I think that's my happy space. I like it because inadvertently, I never learned this from a therapist, but yeah, I do little relaxation techniques. And then the final example is the obvious one, right? A veteran. Excuse me. A veteran who is dealing with PTSD and was kind of very emotionally closed off, very stoic, very salty, hardened guy. And he was suppressing, I guess, whatever trauma he experienced via combat. And he was very hypervigilant, like here out in the civilian life, very hypervigilant. Now, hypervigilance is good when it's managed and it doesn't overwhelm your brain. You don't have irrational fears. There's nothing wrong with being hypervigilant. But if you're hypervigilant to the point of where it's irrational, right? Every place you go, you think is somebody's going to rob you, or there's going to, all that stuff. It's not sustainable. You'll get burnout. It's very taxing to live that way. So through cognitive behavioral therapy, he learned a little bit of, he was able to structure up his thoughts a little better and get on sort of a path to healing his traumatic internal wounds without feeling like it's weak or challenging his manhood, because dudes have a problem with that. I have a problem with that. Now, I'm very comfortable in my manhood. I used to drive a smart car. Yeah, I don't mind that too much. But some guys, you challenge their manhood and they get very stressed out. So the type of therapy that guy underwent was exposure therapy, right? So it was, controlled, very gradual exposure to the trauma triggers, the things that made him think about it. And these either imagined scenarios or just very vivid, candid discussions about, whatever trauma, but in a controlled environment so that he could still ultimately understand that, yeah, this is safe. This is a safe space. And ultimately that's meant to expose you, re-expose you kind of over and over again in order to desensitize your reaction and build a tolerance to this trauma. Now, I poo-pooed that as just dwelling on and getting stuck in it. That's me. That may have worked for them. Let's see. What was the technique? One of the techniques this guy used. Well, he did daily journaling. Yeah, daily journaling. And he would write down when he was having these. One of the commonalities with all of these is he learned to recognize when these thoughts were invading his brain. Right? He learned to recognize it. And then as he recognized it, he would take a moment to write these things down. The things that when he was feeling vulnerable, he's like, okay, I'm this and that. And then you go back and evaluate were they accurate? You read that journal a week later and you're like, was that really the case? Yeah. And what that does is and what it did for him was kind of help him gain a little bit of emotional control, to manage his emotions a little better and to realize, okay, this right here looks potentially dangerous to me, but let's examine the reality. Okay, I'm good to go. He writes it down. He analyzes it later. And what was the result for this guy? Well, one, he ended up sleeping better, which is awesome. Everybody likes a good night's sleep, right? And he was more present and built stronger family bonds because he was more present with his family. And then he started slowly but surely rebuilding, a sense of control over his life, So that's good stuff. All that's good stuff. In contrast to the things, different techniques for different guys, different mentalities, different mindsets. We're going to revisit Carl Jung. Yeah, man. I love Carl Jung. Balancing your psyche, balancing for masculine, us manly men, right? So Jung teaches us that wholeness, right, as an overall personality, our psyche, we have to integrate, and I'm going to use these specific words here, anima, which refers to our inner feminine side. We have to integrate that with our animus, which is our inner masculine traits. And according to Jung, every man and every woman have these traits. Feminine and masculine traits within them, right? So we have to, and it's a balance. And we were made that way by what I believe to be a divine creator. So if we weren't meant to be balanced, we wouldn't have those traits within us. So we got to learn how to integrate those. And me, I have a real problem with softening up. You know what I mean? I'm a hard, salty friggin' dude. I have a hard time really connecting with my anima. I know it's there, and sometimes, there's very rare moments. My wife will point it out sometimes when I'm looking at my grandkid. Yeah, I get soft around my grandkids. But for type A type dudes, therapy shouldn't be about like you losing your edge, your toughness, your manliness. It should be more about just avoiding the traps that are out there that lead to like repressed, traumas and things like that, repressed anger. Because if it's repressed without actually having a command of it, it's going to jump back out later on. And Jung's process of individuation, it directly aligns with cognitive behavioral therapy in the sense of that we need to confront our shadow. You guys remember me talking about our shadow, our darkness. We need to confront it. We need to understand it. We need to own it. And by doing those things, we'll be more resilient. All right, so one of the big gripes that you guys heard me on the last episode was that l- therapy is a luxury for the upper middle class and rich. Like literally, it's a luxury. Lower middle class dudes don't have money or time to devote to that. Well, I'm going to address a little bit of that. I can't make more time. No one can make more time in your life except you if you're overwhelmed with life and work is the thing that the number one thing in your life. But what we're going to explore here is that there are nonprofits out there that make mental wellness accessible, especially for veterans. Now I'm going to harp on the veteran stuff here, and first responders, but regular guys, working guys, right? And these nonprofit, a lot of them out there, they have, they blend the psychology and like the mental wellness and the clinical care, but they blend it with like, a sense of community. And then fitness is pretty big. And most of these, there's a fitness component. I mean, physical fitness component. I mean, nobody's training for the CrossFit games, right? But fitness is a very important part of mental health as well. So the number one organization I'm going to highlight here is Warrior's Heart. And they have a sort of like inpatient, they have like a compound, well, not a compound. What's the word I'm looking for? Like a retreat sort of thing. And, they deal with like addiction and PTSD. And it was started by veterans. It's mainly focused on veterans, but I think they probably take other people as well. And they mix therapy and physical fitness and it's a very no nonsense setting, no frills. It's a very no frills sort of setting where and I think they do great work. Great work. And there's programs you can get on. You don't, that, maybe insurance covers or like some pro bono stuff. And then the next one I'm going to talk about. Now, I've had a good experience with Wounded Warrior Project, so I'm going to continue to tout them. Some people say that they're kind of mismanaged or whatever, but they do free counseling. They got peer support. They've got access to a lot of different things, different venues that they can get you on the right track. And they can focus on the mental aspect of that, the physical too, And there's others. I got 3 or 4 down here, but Warrior's Heart and Wounded Warrior too that just come on the top of the list. So you can get help, you can afford it, right? And now the question is, do you have time? And if the mental health gets bad enough, guess what? You got to try to make time. Otherwise, you may be a ticking time bomb. Now, I hate to refer to veterans as ticking time bombs. That's a stereotype that I don't like because it's a stereotype. It's a caricature, and the movies don't help that. But and all these stupid ass TV shows that always have some out of control veteran who's trying to murder people or overthrow something, whatever. So anyway, moving on. So I'm going to throw you a curveball here. It's not really a curveball for most of you, but one, therapy, right? What is therapy? It's subjective for sure. It's very individual for sure. And it is just absolutely not one size fits all. There is no generic fix for the mental issues are just as varied as it gets. But some guys out there are drawn to spirituality and they're looking for deeper meaning. Many people out there are looking for some deeper meaning, some deeper purpose. So these faith-based alternatives, should they be alternatives or should they be primary paths? What do you think? So you can, all of these components, there's a faith-based option for all of these, even with cognitive behavioral therapy. But number one is you can discover Jesus, dive into the Bible, seek out a faith mentor, Go find yourself a church. It don't have to be a uptight, cliquey church that's like a mega church. There's one in Colorado Springs called a Sanctuary. And hell, even the pastor was a former drug addict. Like, there's some colorful people cruising around in that church. But they're all, hey man, they're looking for some spiritual connection. They're looking for some peace that I would offer to you this. There's no amount of therapy that's going to give you peace that if you don't ask for it from a higher source. But yeah, find a mentor in the church that'll, if nothing else, just help you get a deeper understanding of the gospel of Jesus Christ. Yeah. Go there. There's tons of men's retreats, tons. All these churches all over America, they do these men's retreats. Some of them go to foreign countries to do missions. Some of them are here in, national parks and other things. They do men's retreats and they do family retreats. They do all kind of things. And you can go there and be around people who are maybe not searching the same path that you're searching on, but still looking for a deeper purpose, right? And by seeing these individuals and understanding some of their struggles, then it helps you kind of understand your own. And sharing your faith with someone else or someone sharing it with you, then you can help build each other's capacity. And then you start to, look at, life's challenges a little bit different, less as obstacles and more as opportunities in accordance with God's plan, right? I say all the time that things happen for a reason. Well, I think that reason is what God's plan is. So that's one thing, is diving into it. If you're out there feeling lost right now, if you're listening to this and you're one of those dudes out there just lost in the sauce and there is no joy in the world, and you've tried this, that, and the other, and you're like, yeah, man, go dive into it. Learn the gospel of Jesus Christ. What's something else in the faith-based alternatives here? Prayer. Yeah. I know some of you, prayer, whatever. Hey, man, what's prayer similar to in the secular world? Meditation. Yeah. So if you think yoga's good and you think being a yogi and following some Hindu friggin' whatever they got going on, then why is prayer vastly different than that? You're just praying to Jesus Christ as opposed to an elephant, right? But it's not about necessarily that. It's about that stillness, that calming your mind and that stillness, right? And trying to put your antenna out there to take in, what's God want me to do today? You might get nothing. And then you might have some profound epiphany. Or you might sit quietly in prayer, speak your mind, amen, and get up, walk out and go. And you might have some epiphany out on the street. Something may become so clear to you that you're like, what? Why? How did I miss this? Or you may spend months not being able to see clearly. But it's out there. Just got to tune that antenna up. Yeah. Look for that divine support through prayer. Many, many millions of people have calmed their demons. Yeah. Through divine support. And what else? Now, this doesn't necessarily require faith, but what about just doing random acts of kindness? Volunteer at some place. Go deliver food to homeless little camps or things like that. There's all kinds of volunteer opportunities out there, folks. But what is that going to do for you? That gives you a focus on something else beyond yourself. And then that can help you build sort of an internal, one, being of service to others gives you an opportunity to see other people's circumstances and realize that yours ain't that bad. Because however bad you think you got it right now, somebody else has got it worse. I promise you that. Here in America, we're not even scratching the surface of some of the poverty and just pains and agonies and bondages of third world countries. So, selfless acts will help you see a different perspective. And that's in line with what Jesus teaches us to do anyway. And then it can also help you defeat, if you're out there and you feel like you're isolated, you're a loner, nobody understands, you don't have many friends or whatever, or you choose not to have many friends, right? Volunteering like that as a part of a sort of a bigger organization or something can help you kind of defeat that isolation, because you're around other people, and it's, you'll build relationships and slowly you might find somebody in a similar situation or whatever. And then the other thing is, helping other people can really help you kind of build your self-worth. A lot of people who have problems out there mentally, well, one, they don't love themselves. They find fault within themselves, or they blame themselves. And you can't really love others if you can't love yourself. So a small step to helping you find some value within yourself is helping other people. And I've said this on other podcasts. Sometimes it might be a little bit selfish, because it feels good to help other people. But the good news is, it's selfish in a good way, in a righteous way. Yeah. As long as you're doing it to help other people and not going out to seek that feeling, right? Just like that dopamine or whatever it is you get when you do have some good feeling, whatever. So it can help you start to value yourself a little bit. Okay, I'm a value to other people now, so I'm not totally worthless. And build from that, man. Yeah, there's a lot of ways. So faith-based techniques to help you get right mentally. And that's not to say you can't use therapy and cognitive behavioral therapy, because there's plenty of psychologists out there who are faith-based guys who have a foundation of faith in Jesus Christ and whatnot. My friend, who's a therapist, is in fact a believer. So yeah, you can integrate that. You don't have, now I believe faith-based stuff, I believe that's standalone. I believe you can, if you're ready, you can go and find peace there alone without any therapy. But again, that's individual stuff. So, and that leads us into this. At the end of the day, whether it's cognitive behavioral therapy or the insights and philosophies of Carl Jung, or some nonprofit resources out there, or whether or not you go to the friggin' psychic tarot card reader or the hypnotist, or if you go all in for Jesus, the change has to start with you and it ends with you. None of those, no technique will work. No therapist, no spouse, no pastor, or no lover, no mentor, not even your very best friend in the whole wide world can do it for you. So you alone have to commit to change what needs changing. But once you've made your mind up to do it, you can do it with any of these tools. So hold yourself accountable and then make the decision to be healthy. Is that too much? So that was it, folks. I felt compelled to put up a supplement to the previous episode, because I am salty, and I come off as salty sometimes, and I have my own personal issues with therapy, but I seek therapy through other means, because I am maybe almost an individualist to a fault. So never mind me. That's my thoughts, folks. So I just wanted to put that out there, just to give the other side of the coin of what I was speaking on. I think however you achieve it, you still have to make the decision to go after it. And then you still have to stick with it. However you achieve mental wellness, there's just so many avenues, so many ways to approach it. But your resolve has to be strong, and you have to stick with it. And ultimately, I'm going to go ahead and put this out there. Ultimately, at the end of the day, I think faith needs to be a strong start point or foundation for that. Because I think without the faith, you're just building on a false foundation. So there's my opinion on it, folks. All right, as I said, let's see. twoteamguys.com, we have land navigation 5, 6, and 7 December. OspreyShootingSolutions.com, we have the Baby It's Cold Outside match on 20 December. So please sign up for those. And then finally, GiveSendGo.com/help-a-homie-fund. Please consider giving to that, especially during the holidays when there's people out there not getting that good pecan pie. All right, folks. Thanks very much for listening. I hope this helped balance out a little bit of what I was talking about. And please give me your feedback. Yeah, please give me your feedback. I'm eager to hear it. I appreciate you all for listening. Be safe. Happy Thanksgiving. I love you guys.